Welcome back to On the Edge, Brains. Here, right here, this is the place where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Today we have the beautiful Carmen Braga from Canada, near Edmonton, Alberta, somewhere in there if you're looking for a landmark. She's here to talk about recovery, redemption, healing, and angels. I'm so glad to have her here, and I want to thank you, my Canadian followers, because you are like 14-15% of my audience, and I don't care if you're on the west side, if you're on the east side. I love you and I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Carmen is here to share with us her great wisdom and her aha moment. Brains, let's not delay. Let's welcome our guest today, Carmen Braga. Hello, how are you?
Hi, April. Good. How are you?
Really good. I'm so glad to have you. You know, my brain say, you always so glad to have, I'm just honored to have people come and step to the edge with their truth, with their aha moment and their awareness. Tell us a little bit about you. I know that you were in a very dark place about 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and you have just risen to new heights on the wings of angels. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, it's I spent a good portion of my life in a lot of darkness and a lot of just not in a good place at all. My first marriage was pretty abusive, and subsequent relationships after that were abusive as well. Addictions, I had alcohol and cigarettes, pretty big time, and yeah, I was kind of in a very deep, dark hole in my life. So
wow. And so in that deep hole, how are you resonating with the world? Were you combative? Were you angry? Were you reclusive? What did that look like?
very angry, and a lot of sadness, actually. I don't remember ever really being happy during those times. At least there wasn't a lot of happiness anyways. And I didn't think that, I don't think I really knew how to be happy, actually.
Right.
It was just one of those things that, yeah, I just, you know, my parents weren't too happy together, and I just kind of picked up on their energy growing up, and I kind of became that, and it just flourished in my life, but not in a good way. And it just kind of took me down that rabbit hole.
Wow. So now when we talk about love and self-reflection, could you identify with love? Did you know what you wanted your love to feel like? Did you even have any resemblance of what love was?
No. I didn't love myself at all during that time. It was funny because a few years ago, I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, oh my God, how have I looked in the mirror? How have I done my hair and makeup all these years and not seen myself in the mirror? I didn't want to see myself. I didn't like the reflection that was looking back at me. And there was no self-love at all. And it took me a little while to learn who I was and really get in contact with me.
So you say that you had a lot of discord in your life. And do you think that was drawing those same type of individuals to you?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I always use the word frequency. Whatever frequency that you're resonating at in that moment is who you will be bringing into your life, people that are on that same frequency. So for me, I was resonating on a very low frequency back then, with so much anger and fear and just that sadness. That's what I drew to me. Now, the most amazing thing to me was that I was attracting abusive people to me. Back then, like I looked at myself and I thought of myself as being the victim of abuse. But I didn't realize that I was the one who was abusing myself. I was actually the biggest abuser of all. And because of that, that's why I was attracting people to me that were also abusive. That was a huge eye opener for me when I learned that it was all about me, that I had to change. When I changed how I was treating myself, and I started to learn to love myself and to respect myself, that's when everything changed for me. That's when I started to attract people who were on that frequency, and people who actually came in to support me instead of put me down. And that was
Right.
huge.
And you know, men, we love you men now. We're not male bashing. But for some reason, they think that they have all the control, and they put the hands on you. They talk to you bad. They mistreat you. Don't forget that you came from a woman, okay? Your mother was a woman. I don't care what science is doing nowadays. And we need to honor and respect that space and that person. So you were in an abusive relationship with the alcohol and the drugs. What was your aha moment? What was your realization to say, you know what, I'm pumping my brakes. I'm making a left turn here and I'm getting out of this relationship?
Well, I was done with that first marriage at that point, but I had continued to drink, and I was a heavy smoker. Like, I was smoking 2 to 3 packs a day. Like, it was a lot. And that was for a good portion of my life. So, but I came to that point where I didn't feel like I had any hope at all. I absolutely felt hopeless and kind of helpless. My life just, nothing worked. Everything was dysfunctional within it, and I was dysfunctional within it. So that is when divine intervention quite literally popped into my life. And it was my angels, my guides and angels, which I didn't know that I even had back then, because I didn't have any religious background or anything like that. So I didn't have any basis for any of this, but regardless, there they were. And they showed me the proverbial fork in the road. So they said, if you go this way, you're going to have the life of your dreams. You go that way, you're going to hurt yourself or someone else. Choose. And so the next morning, I stood in the mirror and really took a long, hard look at myself. Kind of did the Dr. Phil thing where I said, how's that working for you?
That's my dude. That's my dude. I
Yeah,
take people to the Dr. Phil show here in California all the time, and he's quick to say, how was that working for you?
Yeah.
And that's what we need to ask ourselves. Is it working for us? Are these outside influences, is all this noise that is reverberating in our head, is this really us talking to us? Or is this, you know, some evil spirit? Now, you were touched by angels. So now you have now gotten a more spiritual awakening. And with that, you're able to pour that into others. Tell us a little bit about what you do there at Healing Heart Center.
Well, I'm a co-owner of Healing Heart Center. Hazel Butterworth is my business partner here. And she's a Reiki master and teacher and does color sound therapy. And I'm a life coach. And I specialize in self-reflection and empowerment for women for this reason, because I lived it. I went through it. And my angels and guides have quite literally been my teachers for the past 15 years. And they have shown me what's going on in our lives. They've shown me everything about myself. Holy smokes. I've changed my entire life because of their intervention and because of their help and guidance. And that's what I love helping other people to do now, because we don't have to stay in that dark place. If you don't want to be there, you don't have to be there. And so what I do is I help women to start making small shifts in their lives so that they can start stepping into quite literally the light of, instead of that darkness.
So when a person is in a dark space, what are some of the things that you incorporate in your modality, in your training, to help them see the light? I mean, do you start with journaling, self-reflection? Is it meditation? Is it a change of diet? What are some of the key turnkey approaches that you introduce to people that are lost?
Well, my whole premise and my vision is let's get healthy together, body, mind, and spirit. And what that's about bringing balance and harmony and especially love into all of these areas of your life. Because we're not just one thing. It needs to be all inclusive of all of these areas. And so we look at a lot of different things. We look at the family dynamics of what goes into, because who we become is a lot of learned behavior throughout our lives. And we look at the children, we look at fears, we look at forgiveness, self-love, of course, is in there. It's a combination of a lot of different things that I help people to dive into, because it's not just one thing. When it comes to self-reflection, we have to be open to seeing all sides of ourselves, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well, again, it's the total package. Mm-hmm. Talking about a total package, you had to redesign your package when it came to love and finding a partner and finding a suitor. What did that look like when the man of your dreams showed up?
Well, that was actually because after I did the hard reflection in the mirror that one morning, it took me a couple of months. I knew I wanted to change my life, but I didn't know how to do that. And I was scared, frankly. And, you know, change is a scary thing sometimes for a lot of us. But I knew that I wanted to make some kind of a change in my life. And I knew the two things that I had to do, the biggest obstacles in my life was the drinking and the smoking. And so I ended up taking 2 weeks off work back then, and I quit both cold turkey. I hallucinated and cried for the first 4 days, but then after that, it actually got easier. And that was the very first time in my life that I ever felt empowered. I had never known what that felt like before, and I liked it. It was a really good feeling. And so I just wanted to continue with that. And I wanted to know who were these angels, who were these guides that came in and helped me with that intervention. And I just started talking to them, and communication just started flowing. And it was amazing to me.
When Mr. Wonderful showed up at the furniture store that you were working at,
yeah,
that was that aha moment.
Yeah, well, and that was 1 week actually after I had quit drinking and smoking. I went back to work, and my husband now walked into our furniture store and bought furniture for the house that I'm now living in. I actually ended up furnishing my entire home without even knowing that I was going to be living in it. So
you do it. That's when God shows up, baby. He shows out. Okay. Yeah. You have no idea, brains. I'm telling you, and don't resist it. Just go with it. You have to identify, because when spirit talks to you, there's no misunderstanding. It's not like, oh, did I think I hear that, or I'm hallucinating. When spirit talks to you, baby, taps you on your shoulder with force, you pay attention, you know exactly who that is. And those angels were fluttering around. What does he think about your gift?
Oh, he's good with it all. He actually, well, we've learned a lot from each other over the years, and he fully embraces everything that I do. I'm so grateful for that, because it's so much easier to be in a relationship,
right,
where your partner actually supports you.
Right.
And that's huge. And I know a lot of people don't have that. I didn't have that before. So I know what it's like to not have it compared to having it now. And it's a great gift. So I'm truly grateful that he
and you don't take it for granted, and you don't use it. But you've been able to think about writing a book, and you're going to release that book the first of the year, 2020. Tell us what's going to be in the pages of that book, Carmen.
Well, it's called Empower Yourself from Within. And we will be, it's all about, like I said, we look at the family dynamics, the beliefs and such that we grow up with. It's not just about DNA. It's actually a good portion of who we become is learned behavior from what we be around us. We also look at the children, why these kids are here, because the kids are very different today, and they're here to teach us, and they're playing a really big role in our lives. It's really important to see why they're here and how they can help us if we allow them to. We also look at fear. There's so much to fear. It's crazy. I know I've lived a lot of it. But we look at fear. A lot of times we don't want to look at these things, but it actually is incredibly freeing when we do. And it helps you to lighten up. I dive into forgiveness as well. Forgiveness of yourself and forgiveness of others. That can be a very, very touchy subject for a lot of people, because let's face it, some horrible things have happened to people around the world and continue to, unfortunately. And
the word love is a big $25 word, and it means different things to different people. You know, I struggle with that. People say, do you have unconditional love? I don't know if that's really real. I want to have unconditional love, but I'm telling you, you come at me twisted, okay? You got your hands on me, you stealing from me, you disrespecting me, you know, you're submerging me. I don't know if I can love that. I can love you enough to leave you alone. I can do that, but to embrace you and to, you know, kind of work through that, unless you like my mama or my child, I don't know. I don't know. So, you know, I can learn something from you and teachers like you when it comes to overcoming adversity. I've never, you know, had an addiction problem, but I got other issues that need to be worked on. And so again, looking in that mirror and recognizing the person that's in that reflection is huge. Now, we say self-reflection. That's a big term. What do you mean by that? How do people start to self-reflect? Do they start by journaling? I think the first thing is to stare at that person in the mirror, butt naked. Just reveal yourself, brains. Just every wrinkle, every crinkle. And stand there in your truth. Give yourself 10, 15 minutes to really kind of settle into the person that you're looking at. And then where do you go from there, Carmen?
Well, what they've taught me over the years is to look at every single person in your life is a reflection of you. Okay? Everyone is showing you parts of yourself or aspects of yourself. And that's the good and the not so good parts, right? This is what self-love really is to be able to love all parts of yourself. That's the good, the bad, and the ugly. We tend to not want to see the faults. We don't want to see the bad or the ugly parts of ourselves. But you know what? We have to realize that every single one of us has these parts. We're human beings. That's what makes us up. But we're so afraid to look at these parts of ourselves. And it's like a psychological fear. It's not actually founded in any kind of reality. When we look at these parts of ourselves, it's actually, again, it's very freeing, because you can see who you are from a different perspective and accept and eventually love these parts of yourself. You don't have to do anything with it. It's just a matter of acknowledging that you are made up of lots of different things.
What do you think about this?
Reflecting that for you.
What do you think about this, Carmen? When other influences merge into your lane, do we have to accept that? I think that we need to compartmentalize that. You know, your mother, for example, could have been abusive. That's not my responsibility. I'm not going to own that. I'm going to put that where that is. Yeah. It might have been the drugs and alcohol. That's me. I'm doing that to myself. I own that. Do you think that people, when they're doing their self-reflection, should compartmentalize where these effects are and how they impacted your life when they're doing their self-reflection? Or do we just need to take ownership of our entire life and all of our experiences? What's your position?
It's definitely about taking responsibility for yourself and for your creations, because how you're feeling on the inside is what you're creating on the outside in your world. right? Again, with that frequency level of what you're attracting and what you're bringing to you. I know a lot of people, like, we don't have to take on, we're not meant to take on everything that other people are showing us, but they're always in your life for a reason, and they're always showing you some part of yourself that you need to look at and ask yourself, okay, how am I treating myself like this? So in the case of abuse, like with what I went through, when I looked at that I was doing these people to me, these abusive people to me, and then I asked myself, okay, how am I abusing myself? That's when the tables turned, because then I was taking back ownership and taking responsibility for how I was treating myself, which was not very well. It was really my self-talk and how I treated myself physically and mentally and emotionally was really horrible. And so naturally, that's, so I look at these people and I go, wow, thank you. You know what? You showed me how I was treating myself. So then the ball was back in my court. And then I was able to actually start treating myself better. And then in turn, I stopped attracting those kinds of people to me.
So when you stopped attracting those kind of people, now I know that there's still friends that you have from back in the day. What do they say about the new Carmen Braga?
Completely different. and I am completely different. It is night and day. It really is. There's just no comparison. Even my hairdresser says to me all the time, when I first went to her, she said, you were so different back then, So yeah, it has helped me, because back then I was quite literally a shell of who I am now. There wasn't anything there. There was no life in my eyes. I didn't have anything to me. There was no substance. And through learning from my guides and angels, through my own self-reflection, and through, like, I do this every day. Like, I am always holding myself accountable. I am always looking for the messages, because there's messages in everything for us. I do this all the time. It's become who I am. Okay. And I love helping people to do that.
So now the new you, are you a little bit harder on yourself? Because you got to deal with the fear of recognizing who you are and identifying. The self-realization, because you're at that aha moment, you're at that breaking point. Then there's shame associated and guilt, because I did all of this and these are what people are thinking of me and this is what I think about myself. So when you get beyond all of that, do we find that we're a little bit more critical of ourselves? Oh, okay, so say, for example, now I don't know if you went through a 12-step program, or you were able to break away from alcohol and have an occasional wine or beer, or just totally stay away from it. But, whatever that is there still a little bit of a shame or an embarrassment about where you were? Do you
No.
find that you're hard on yourself? Great.
Not at all. Actually, it's a complete opposite of that. I went through the shame and all of that when I was embroiled in all of that. Now I understand where it all came from, where it all stemmed from. And now that I've worked on it and I've released all of that, that's not a part of my life anymore. That doesn't play a role at all. I understand why it happened, and I understand where I was at the time, and that's where I grew up from, right? I took that and I went up with it. Rather, if I stayed in this, if I still felt guilt or shame or anything like that, I'd be resonating on that low frequency again.
Right. So now you do some wonderful things there at the Healing Heart Center. You do now, and your partner Hazel, she works with color and sound. What are a couple things that she's taught you about color and sound in healing?
Well, mostly color therapy for me, because Hazel knew me right in the beginning. Actually, she was my Reiki teacher. She was the one that that helped me to, that was kind of my gateway into what I'm doing now, was by taking Reiki with her. And so she knew me back in my dark days, and I literally wore black most of the time.
Mm.
So she taught me about color. And to this day, what I do every single morning, I've got all my clothes on hangers, and I'll take one thing, I'll hold it in front of me, and take another one, hold it in front of me. And I'll continue to do that until I find a color that actually brightens my face. And so I allow my clothes to choose me every morning, because our bodies are incredibly intelligent. Your body will tell you what color it needs that day. And that's how I pick my clothes in the morning. I just, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, I've definitely changed to a lot of color in my wardrobe and in my life.
Well, it's like, if there's any representation by that abstract that's behind you, it is really beautiful. I love it. I love it. And thank you so much for posting your Hello Brains post with that in the background, because I believe in vibrance, and I believe in color, and I believe in options and choices. And that's why I have all these interesting guest brains, because I'm trying to, everything's not for everybody. Life is not cookie cutter. We all have our own plan, as my mama say, from the womb to the tomb. So what we want to do is we want you to tell us a little bit about, the great programs that you have. I know that you have a program that's going on right now online. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I have several programs going on. I'm actually going to be part of, I'm one of the speakers in an Empowered Women's Summit that's coming up here.
Oh, wow.
In November. So that's exciting for me. I've never done that before. But I have my own programs that I've created on different levels for, because we all have to start somewhere, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, but all of my programs are completely geared towards you and what you're needing in that moment. So, and we do dive deep. We go into everything. We go into absolutely everything, but it's not scary. It is not scary. It is so enlightening. It's so freeing. And when I work with clients, I do mostly one-on-one. I'm wanting to get into group coaching and online coaching and stuff like that. The technical side of things kind of trips me up a little, and that's where I need help. But other than that, I'll get there. But it is my passion, because it helped me so much. It changed my life. Everything that I've done has been geared to be a life changer. And I know that there's lots of people out there that are going through a lot of stuff. And we don't have to live like that. We're not meant to live like that. Right. We're meant to be living a life of joy and happiness, not fear and anger and and suppression and such.
Who keeps you sharp, Carmen? Who keeps you on the cutting edge? Who keeps you on the edge? I mean, who pours into you as far as ongoing training, books that you might read, different conferences? Who's your soul supplier?
I think the one that's actually been the most influential in my life has been Eckhart Tolle.
Well, that's a read. That is an experimental read, because I tried it once, twice. I got it the third time. But also, you have to understand the language. Yes. It is a different language. It's not, the regular stuff that we're talking about. So take your time. What you don't understand, you can always go in and research it. Tell my brains what you did.
I took his book, The Power of Now, because I had a lot of people had told me that they had read his book, but they didn't really understand it. And I thought that was a shame, because it's meant to help people to change their lives as well, right? Mm-hmm. So I quite literally transcribed that book. I went paragraph by paragraph. Wow. And I put it in terms that everyday people can understand. And I created a program around it, and I ended up teaching that actually in the schools here and such. And yeah, I mean, I learn along the way too, so it's fantastic. It's always a learning process, and that's the fun part for me.
It is. It is. And you have a wealth of information as far as life experience and what you're doing now and what you're pouring into people. I think you're absolutely incredible. Tell my brains how to get in contact with you. And if they want to come in and have a visit to the Healing Heart Center there in Canada, how they get in contact with you, baby.
Well, the best way is to go to my website. It's healingheartcenter.ca. Put the card up here for you. And it's Hearts has an S on the end, and center is CENTRE. Okay, and on there, when you go onto the website, you'll see my contact information is there, email and phone number, and all my programs are on the website as well. And yeah, that's the best way to get in touch with me.
Well, Brains, I'm telling you, there's a wealth of information here on the edge, all around the world. I take great care and great time into vetting my guests to make sure that what they are delivering is something that's going to resonate in your head and in your heart. I know that all of you were smart enough to edit and filter information and extract what you need and share with others by liking, by going in and subscribing, by going in and visiting my guest's website, leaving a comment about the interview. Did you have a takeaway? Did you have an aha moment? Did you have a realization? Is there something that you'd like to lend to the conversation? We're open to all of that here on The Edge. We want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We want you to watch the Weekend Watch Party because there's a replay of all of these great interviews, of all these great women and men, young entrepreneurs, pet lovers that we have on the show, because we are all one energy. Yeah. We are all of one universe and one spirit. It may be disseminated and explained differently. You know, I might have a green angel. You might have a purple one, you know. But again, we are all one and we want to unify as one. Thank you so much, Carmen Braga, for being here on The Edge. Please come back the first of the year when your book is released. We want everyone to see it, hear it, touch it, feel it, and buy it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, thank you, April. Thank you for having me on. And I really appreciate spending this time with you and your viewers. It's been awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. My brains and value and appreciate you too. Have a super great day. I'm counting on each and every one of you to change your frequency. It's time to level up. Talk to you later, Brains.
Bye, Brains.
Bye-bye.